Hey kids, welcome to the Far Out Podcast. It has been a long time since I've done a solo episode, but that's okay. That's a good problem to have because lately the output of the podcast has really been guest focused, and I really like that. I'm glad that that kind of stretch has been happening with the podcast because, if you go back to week one, to the very inception of the podcast, I said that I wanted it to be like Joe Rogan, just minus the crazy. And, with Joe Rogan, I can't remember the last time he's done a solo episode, like if ever, he has at least one guest on every episode, sometimes multiple guests on per episode, but like every episode he uploads is him having a conversation with someone else. And ideally, that is where I think I'd want the podcast to be, to where ultimately I'm uploading more guest centered content as opposed to solo stuff. And yeah, of course, I'll do solo stuff every now and then, whether that's like a film analysis or an album review, stuff like that. But, I'm really happy that lately I've had to put my solo ideas on the back burner just because there's been this interest in people who want to come on and who are willing to talk about their lives and their interests. And again, I think that's a really good thing to just have happen. And, with the podcast itself, I wanted this to be something that's both entertaining and educational. And especially when a guest is present, that's really where the true education, comes out. Because, of course, a good conversation can be entertaining, but like, again, when there's a guest that comes on, that's when they get to talk about things that I'm not privy to, or they can expand something that I am aware of, but they can just teach me. And by teaching me, then it's also teaching you, the listener. And so it's been really good that lately, um, there's been more guest centered stuff going out on the podcast, and I hope that that trend continues. But even when I'm not having a conversation with someone else, I'm still putting out stuff that still features someone else as well. Because if you've looked at the channel recently, you'll see that now there is music on the podcast as well. And this is original music made not just by myself, but also by someone named Sojourn One. And if you're familiar with the podcast, if you've listened to, I think maybe week 5 or 6 onward, you'll hear some pretty cool music at the beginning, middle, and end of each episode, and that's made by Sojourn One. He made the intro music, the outro music, and some cool transition music as well. And he's a great friend of mine. I've had him on as a guest as well to talk about his own music, and you should check out his stuff too. I'll drop a link down in the description below to his channel. But in addition to his own music, him and I got together and we decided to make music as a duo, together as well. And we call ourselves To Go. That's our. I want to say that's our band name, but even saying that kind of sounds. That's a really flattering way of saying what we are. That we're a band. Air quotes band, but really To Go represents just another title for us to be creative and to express ourselves together. Because like his own solo stuff is under Sojourn One. My solo type stuff, air quotes on solo type stuff, is under the Far Out Podcast. But then when we came together, we decided that we should kind of have our own name to differentiate a little bit between, uh, what each kind of output is. And it's still under the Far Out Podcast stuff, but it very much is its own thing. But yeah, Sojourn One and I came together, and we made this title, this group called To Go, and it's been a way for us to make music together because, as I said, that's another way to be creative and to express ourselves. And for me, it's been a dream come true because, like, look, every kid growing up, whether you're a little guy who thinks he wants to be Justin Bieber, or a girl, who thinks that she wants to be Selena Gomez, like we all have these ideas of writing music and making it big and having it be successful and popular and getting rich and famous and all that. And I have no idea if To Go will make me rich and famous and stuff, but it is me living that dream of making something that, you know, a lot of people think if only I could do that, and it's like now I'm finally doing that. Like anyone can do anything they want to. They just have to sit down and start and then better their craft over time. And yeah, I'm really like, so on an emotional level, I'm really happy with To Go taking off. The idea that I can now say I had a hand in making some music to me is just awesome. But also just from a production level to a release level to the reception level, the whole project has been amazing. It's exceeded my expectations in every possible way. And Sojourn One and I, we've had a lot of fun doing it together. I mean, we're literally working literally side by side at the same desk, working on every aspect of this together, from writing the lyrics to thinking of cool beats to finding melodies and mixing and all that stuff. And the cover art, I mean, we're all doing it together, and that makes it even more fun as well, that it's something that I can share between someone else who brings their own creative sensibilities to it as well. But yeah, and look, not to speak for Sojourn One, but like, I mean, for myself, it absolutely is something that I'm proud of, and it's something that I feel can express a lot of my, you know, thoughts and emotions that, you know, like the music is offering a different channel for getting my emotions out that I don't think, an episode of the podcast would, or even something as, as standard as like a poem, but like for me, like I'm a writer and a speaker at heart. That's why I started the podcast, and that's also why I'm an aspiring author. And there are days where I don't really know what I want to write. I know, but I just know that I want to write. And so that was one of those days where I was just writing, and it wasn't for any of my book ideas. It wasn't for anything related to the podcast. It was just me writing, and I brought what I wrote to Sojourn One, and we both kind of came to the conclusion that it could be potentially lyrics to a song, and that's how it started. And so just having that creative sense broadened for me was was really awesome, and to see it actually come into reality and not just be something that's left on the table. It's just been really awesome. And yeah, we released our first EP, a two-track EP titled Two of Hearts, and that's available on the podcast channel as well. It's available on this channel. So yeah, look, if you've enjoyed any facet of the Far Out podcast recently, just thank you. Over the months, I really appreciate what this has become and what it will become as well. I still have big plans for where I'm going to take this, but now that I can again expand myself creatively, and now that I'm working on music as well, and that I'm doing it with such a great friend as well, has just been really, really awesome and really rewarding for myself. And so I hope it's rewarding for you. I hope that, you know, again, when you listen to the Far Out podcast, you feel entertained and educated. And now when you check out the music, I hope you're like, yeah, this is good. This sounds good. And then beyond it just sounding good, I hope that the lyrics that we come up with together can, tell a story or make you think differently, stuff like that. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been very rewarding, and I'm very thankful for everything and for everyone who has had a hand in bringing every part of this to life. And yeah, definitely check out Sojourn One's music. He's a really creative talent, and he makes some really cool stuff. And he's showed me some things that he has cooking behind the scenes, and oh boy, I mean, like when they come out, they're gonna blow your guys' mind. So yeah, just again, thanks for checking out the podcast. Check out To Go, check out our music as well, and then check out Sojourn One's music as well. And anyone can do this stuff. Whether you want to start your own podcast or you want to make your own music or whatever, anyone can do anything. So you just got to start. So please just start. Go make something, and yeah. Anyway, kids, getting back to our regularly scheduled program, football season is upon us, and it is so close. At the time of this recording, we are now just 16 days away from kickoff 2025, and so we have just under 3 weeks and just slightly over 2 weeks until football returns to us. And I'm a big Vikings fan. I'm a big Minnesota Vikings fan. I'm a relatively new fan, though, admittedly. I drank the purple Kool-Aid in 2022, and I remember the start of that season we beat Green Bay, and that kind of made me take interest in the team. And then I remember we had that incredible win against the Buffalo Bills with Justin Jefferson leaping, catching a long, fourth down pass. Just really kind of a Hail Mary just to keep the game going, not to win the game, not to tie the game. It was just to move the ball downfield. And Justin Jefferson reaches up, or first he jumps, then he reaches, doing a full body extension, gets a one-handed grab on the football. And that play combined with that game, it was like that was it. That was the dam breaking, and all the purple water just started flowing. But yeah, now football season's coming back, and I'm ready. I'm ready for the Vikings. And look, as a fandom, as a franchise, we're potentially on the precipice of greatness because we drafted a potential franchise QB in JJ McCarthy, and I was there during the 2024 draft when he got selected by the Vikings. I was there at the draft party at US Bank Stadium, the home of the Vikings, when that happened. I was with some friends of mine, and I got to meet players like Andrew Van Ginkel, and I got to talk to the cheerleaders and stuff like that. It was great. It was like a block party inside of the stadium. But I was there, kids, when the chatter was happening around what's going to happen because everyone was waiting to see who the Vikings would select as their QB. Was it going to be JJ McCarthy? Was it going to be Michael Penix Jr.? Was it going to be Drake May? And I'll just say this off the top. If I was in charge of the Vikings, if I got to take that pick, JJ McCarthy was not my first choice. In fact, I don't even think he would have been my second. I wanted Drake May, and now Drake May, I believe, is with the Patriots, and we'll see what happens there. But I remember, kids, that even despite JJ not being my first choice, when the call came in, because there were radio broadcasters down in the stadium on the floor covering what was happening, and everything stopped. They went from talking about the team to saying, well, we just got word, the Vikings have traded up, and a hush, fell over the stadium. Well, actually, first I got to back it up. First, some QBs totally got sniped because the Falcons took Michael Penix Jr., which no one expected. I don't even think that organization expected that to happen. Then the Patriots took Drake May, and we all kind of went like, "Oh, like what just happened here?" Like the doors are kind of closing, so to speak. Then the call came in from the radio broadcasters. The Vikings have just traded up, and we went, "Oh my gosh!" And there was this kind of, you know, quiet energy going around the stadium. And then it was announced, with the 10th overall pick, I believe he was 10th, with whatever pick, the Vikings have selected J.J. McCarthy, and the place erupted. It went crazy. People were shouting and jumping and clapping and chanting, and the fireworks were booming, and, the horn blew, and we started a skull chant. I mean, it it was as if the next president had just been elected. I mean, it was you could physically feel the atmosphere in the room change, and again, not just in the room, but like it was like that was the moment where we potentially have our Tom Brady, our Patrick Mahomes, you know, take your pick. Like we finally potentially have a centerpiece for this team. Then the 2024 season rolls around. JJ McCarthy gets injured, and in comes Sam Darnold, Darnold Dimes, and everyone wrote him off and wrote off the season because he was, no disrespect to Darnold Dimes, but he was a professional bench warmer. He had been jumping around the league, team after team. He was by no means a starter. He was, very happily, second string, third string. And the Vikings selected him. And everyone, and I think even the Vikings included, like the organization, I think we all kind of thought, okay, we'll see what happens. We'll have a little bit of hope, but like, he's only signed to a 1 year deal. He's not that good. We're not expecting a playoff run. Let's just hope at the end of the day, JJ McCarthy can heal quickly and without any delays, and that the season at the end of the day is just fun. I think that's kind of all what we hoped for, was that we could have some fun and not too many bumps along the way. And boy, were we all wrong, myself included, because when Sammy Darnold Dimes, came to the Vikings, he wowed everyone, including himself. He started off the Viking season with a 5-0 record. I mean, this guy was just crazy. He led the team to 5 wins. No one was expecting that. And, he had some incredible plays. He had a 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson against the 49ers. I remember where I was when that happened. I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and the roof flew off the building behind me. Like, it was nuts, and we were, going crazy. And throughout that year, the Vikings ended up going, I believe it was 14-2. I think after all was said and done, let me fact check that. Let's see, Darnold Dimes, yada yada yada. Yes, advancing their record to 14-2. 14-2 with a backup quarterback, with a guy that nobody cared about, that no one had as a QB1. I mean, like, look, credit to Darnold Dimes for him being the athlete, for him being the body on the field. But really, if you think about it, that's a huge testament to the infrastructure of the Vikings, of our head coach, Kevin O'Connell, taking this quarterback to QB rehabilitation school. Like this, shout out Purple Daily, by the way, for me stealing their wordplay there. They're a cool Vikings podcast, and you should check them out. But like with Darnold Dimes, like nobody expected that. So this guy comes from obscurity and leads this team on a monumental run. 14-2. He then implodes in the playoffs. It's not great. Okay, fine, whatever. Now the whole league, and the Vikings included, are looking at Darnold under a microscope. Because now we have a huge decision to make. Do we take this somewhat proven quantity, the Darnold Dimes, who had this incredible year, do we take him and do we extend him? Because now he can demand a blank check because he just proved he's got the goods. Or do we uh, do we fall back on what we initially had selected in JJ McCarthy? Because again, had Darnold had a average year, 7, 8 wins, we would have said, "Hey, thank you for your service, but we're going to send you packing. We got JJ McCarthy coming up next." Okay, well then Darnold has this Hall of Fame level run, and so of course the Vikings had to consider all the options. What do we do? Do we potentially have, you know, a talent problem to where JJ McCarthy is potentially this stud muffin for the next decade? Or do we work with Darnold for another 2 or 3 years? Do we try to run it back and get another 14-win season? Or even, do we get a 12-win season? What could happen with him? And, the future played out, and Darnold Dimes ended up leaving the Vikings. I forget where he ended up, but he's somewhere in the league right now. He is with another team. He is a starter, and he got paid easily over 100 million, I think. And so now JJ McCarthy's coming off of I think a torn meniscus, definitely a leg injury, but he had to sit for the whole year. So he's coming off of this leg injury. He lost a year worth of practice essentially. I do think that the initial plan, again, if Darnold had been a pretty average QB, I think at some point had JJ McCarthy been healthy, or maybe it was not that big of an issue. If he had the capacity to play in 2024, I think that would have been the plan. I think if he had to miss just a few weeks as opposed to the whole season, I think at some point we were going to slot him in. Because like you look at someone like Patrick Mahomes, yeah, he sat for a year, and now he's, the golden boy of the league. But I do think there was so much curiosity regarding JJ that I think everyone included wanted him to at least get his feet wet somewhere. We weren't going to start him in a playoff game, of course. We're going to start him in, kind of a low leverage game. But he didn't even get that chance. He's had to rebuild his body, learn the routes, practice, study the textbook, so on and so forth. So now in 2025, as this season approaches, this is his testing ground. This is step one, day one, game one. Here we go. And, I am optimistic about that, but I'm not going to lie. While I'm hot on JJ, because again, I was there, so I'm still drinking the purple Kool-Aid of, hearing his name get called for the Vikings. I mean, he's supposed to be our future, and so I want him to be that. I want him to have this Darnold level run where he can just show up one day and get 10, 12, 14 wins, of course. But I am a little nervous. I'm what's the phrase? I'm hopelessly optimistic, something like that, or no, cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic regarding JJ. But yeah, look. So despite me drinking the purple Kool-Aid, and despite me, fangirling over Darnold Dimes and fangirling over JJ McCarthy, I don't know how this season's gonna go. I really don't. I don't think it's gonna be great. I don't think it's gonna be bad. I don't even know if it's gonna be just smack dab in the middle. I don't think we're going to be average. We might be a little above, a little below. But I figured in this episode of the podcast, I would try to figure that out, and I would pick the Vikings schedule week by week, seeing what I think will happen with the team. And I've actually done this over the last 2 seasons of Vikings football, and I'll throw up my stats on the screen here. But I've done this throughout 2023 and 2024, and I try to make these picks pretty early because I don't want to be like, 3 days from now, or excuse me, 3 days from the start of the season, you know, I think they'll win 12 games, or something like that. I want these to be legitimate, um, you know, predictions. I want to be able to either A, totally gloat over my predictions and say, look at what I did, I knew this was coming, or B, I want to, be like told, hey, you were wrong. Well, high risk, high reward. So with the 2023 season, I made my predictions all the way back in May, and I predicted that the Vikings would uh, go 11-6, and I was wrong. They went 7-10. So just over 41% of my predictions for that year were correct, and you can see I broke it down game by game. Obviously, you can tell here that if I have a red X marking it, that means that my prediction was not right. So the Vikings did not beat the Buccaneers, but I was correct in thinking that the Eagles would beat the Vikings. So I have a green check mark there, and so you can see how I did for 2023. Regarding 2024, I predicted the Vikings would go 10-7 in 2024. They ended up going 14-3. Or 14-2. I must have counted the bye in that as well. But none of my predictions were right, so just under 53%. And so, technically speaking, from a math perspective, my predictions have gotten more accurate year after year, 2023 to 2024. So that means going into 2025, surely I'll get more right, right? Well, let's see. That's the whole point of this episode. And so we are going to break down the Vikings schedule, and we'll see where we land regarding our picks, and then eventually we'll look back on these selections and see if I was right, wrong, way off. Who knows? But yeah, let's get down to business. All right, kids. I am making these predictions as of August 23rd, and we are going to lock these in. And let's begin looking at week one, game one against the Chicago Bears. Ooh, okay. So the Vikings at Chicago. Okay, this is tough. Already out of the gate, this is tough. This could very well be a coin flip or a trap game. Trap in the sense that I think people would assume the Vikings are likely to win. I would tend to agree. However, the start of the season for everyone, I don't care if you're the Chiefs, Eagles, Patriots, Vikings, the beginning of each season is just up in the air. Teams are freezer burnt, stuff isn't working right. You need time for things to even out. There's going to be a lot of knots that need to be untangled. That being said, this is tough for a couple of different reasons. The Bears historically are not known for their offense. They're primarily known for their defense. However, the Vikings in recent years have had an incredible defense, arguably top five for last year. And this year, going into 2025, we've only added weapons. So you look at defense to defense, I'm going to give the Vikings the edge. Also, though, you have to now look at this too. People are really hot on Caleb Williams for the Bears because he kind of, lit up during the preseason. I'm going to pull up the Bears depth chart here while I'm talking. But people like Caleb Williams. They think he's hot. I think he could be hot. Lately, historically, doesn't seem like he has been, but the preseason is a testing ground, and I think so far throughout the preseason he has looked pretty decent. So now you have to compare QBs. You got Caleb Williams going up against JJ McCarthy. Well, Caleb Williams has more experience, and again, JJ is an untested quantity here. So, again, just breaking it down, QB to QB, I got to give the slight edge to Caleb Williams. That being said, if the Vikings defense can get under his skin, uh, then all bets are off, and then JJ can do a pass here, pass there. We can really rely on our run game. But even with the pass game, I got to talk about this too, where the Vikings are not sitting good because of course, we have Justin Jefferson, who's arguably the best player in the entire league. Certainly the best wide receiver. But looking at him, you got Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, um, what's his name, CeeDee Lamb, you know, but like he could arguably be the face of the league if he wanted to be, because people are kind of over on Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff. But anyway, he's top shelf. He is absolutely a top shelf player, not just a top shelf wide receiver. He's a top shelf player. So that being said, despite him being able to catch anything, our wide receiver core is banged up. You got our wide receiver two and Jordan Lambo Addison, being suspended for 3 games, so he's not going to be able to play. And then you have Jaden Naylor, who is kind of a you know professional bench warmer. No disrespect to him, but even he's banged up as well. And so really, via wide receivers you can trust all darn day. You got JJ throwing to JJ, and Justin Jefferson. Well, everyone and their mother is going to know this, and they're going to guard the crap out of Jefferson. So then it becomes a ground game, and then we're going to have to rely on Aaron Jones and what's that guy's name? Jordan Mason, which I have high hopes for. I really do. But can we heavily rely on a ground game to beat the Bears? I don't know. I don't know. Despite the Bears being a defensive leaning team, their defense is not stellar by any means. But I think the X factor here is really kind of a two-pronged thing here. One, with it being the beginning of the season, and two, the fact that it's a home game for the Bears. I home field advantage is real. I feel that it is. Even if it's worth 20%, that 20% is very crucial in moments like these where you just need a little bit over the edge to tick something for a team. And so, despite everything I've said, and despite me being really hot on the Vikings and being really hot for JJ, and thinking that Justin Jefferson could very well be the face of the league and is certainly the best wide receiver out there, putting him above Chase and above CD Lamb, I think the Bears are going to beat the Vikings. I think that they will. I think the Vikings are going to start 0-1 again, just because of all those factors. JJ being untested, the Bears having a somewhat okay defense, Caleb Williams having experience, and with it being a home game for the Bears, I think the Bears are going to win. If it was a home game for the Vikings, I would give it to the Vikings. But again, I think that roughly 20% factor that a home game represents, I think it's going to be just enough to get Chicago this win. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, because I don't want to see my team start on a loss, but I just got to speak somewhat realistically and somewhat objectively here, and I'm going to pencil this in as a loss for the Vikings. The Bears will beat the Vikings in week 1, starting off the Vikings 0-1. Okay, now we go into a nice stretch here. We come home from Chicago, and we're looking ahead, and now we're going to be home for a bit at US Bank Stadium, and we are facing the Falcons in week 2, formerly the Atlanta Cousins Falcons, for Kirky Cousins over there. Let me pull up the Falcons depth chart. But yeah, our former QB and Kirk Cousins, Kirky McClutcherton, he left the Vikings and went over to the Falcons, and now he is a professional second string QB there. And also the Falcons, I believe, are 0-3 when it comes to their preseason numbers as well. So anyway, who do they have driving the car over there in Atlanta? You got Michael Penix Jr., very much like J.J. McCarthy, untested, certainly so. Maybe Penix might have had some reps last year. I can't remember. Because Kirky Cousins exploded, and so Michael Penix Jr. might have some actual experience, in the NFL. I'm not fully sure though because I don't follow the Falcons. But between the two, look, remember, if I could wind back the clock to the draft, J.J. McCarthy would have not been my first pick. It would have gone Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., then J.J. McCarthy. That being said, I don't necessarily think Penix Jr. is going to be a better QB than JJ, because from what I've seen of JJ with me following the Vikings, I think that JJ has a lot of potential. And with Michael Penix Jr. and what I've seen of him and just heard of him, I don't think he screams reliable immediately. Again, he might have some experience in an NFL system more properly than JJ McCarthy would, but that kind of leaves a lot to be desired. Then you just look at the weapons. They got, Bijan Robinson at running back. That's incredible. You got Drake London at wide receiver. That's also incredible too. But again, the Vikings are going to have Justin Jefferson. Despite him being covered, he can catch anything. And we're going to have a pretty okay running back core, in my opinion. And our defense, I think, is going to be a really heavy asset against the Falcons as well. And it's going to be a home game. And again, I don't trust Michael Penix Jr. to do a whole lot. And if, for some reason, Penix gets pulled out and they got to put in Kirk Cousins, well, we know Kirk Cousins inside and out. So we can easily get under his skin. And so for all that and more, I'm going to call week 2 against the Falcons a win for the Vikings. So now we'll be 1-1, and I'll pencil that in there as well. Okay, now looking ahead to week 3 against the Bengals. Okay, so I need to disclose some information for this. I have a lot riding on this game. I am in a fantasy football league. I have made a bet with one of my friends, one of my, league mates, as it were, against this game, or against him in this game. It's a simple bet. If the Vikings beat the Bengals, I win. And if the Bengals beat the Vikings, he wins. And there is $150 on the line. So I really need the Vikings to win this game. But do I think they actually can? Well, let's figure this out. Um, Look, the Bengals have Joey Burrow as QB. He's a great QB. He's arguably top five. So going throw for throw against the Vikings, that they got it in spades in QB. No matter how good Justin Jefferson, no matter how good JJ McCarthy is. But speaking of Justin Jefferson, they not only have an incredible QB, they also have an incredible wide receiver in Jamar Chase, arguably number one, and wide receivers arguably number two beneath Justin Jefferson. So he's great as well. But the Bengals, I don't think are really known for their ground game, nor do I think that they're known for their defense as well. And again, the Vikings should have an incredible defense, and we should have an incredible run game as well. Um, well, hopefully incredible. I'm really betting on our ground game being good. But yeah, look, I have high hopes for JJ, uh, for McCarthy, but Joy Burrow is tough. But again, not to sound like a broken record, but if the defense can just get under his skin, if we can razzle dazzle him, he'll fall like a house of cards. And I even saw a little bit of that in the preseason for the Bengals. I saw Joey Burrow literally running the opposite direction downfield a few times because he was getting flustered by teams' defense and uh, and all that stuff. So, and with it being a home game, and with me having a huge bet on the line, I'm going to call this a win for the Vikings. I think the Vikings will beat the Bengals. It will certainly be uphill. There's no doubt about it. This game is not a gimme. Um, I feel very secure in the Vikings beating the Falcons. I do not feel very secure in the Vikings beating the Bengals. However, with everything I've lined out and with my own personal interest and bet on the line, I need the Vikings to win this game. Uh, so this is essentially a small version of my Super Bowl. And so, yeah, I'm going to call week three against the Bengals a win for the Vikings. But if the Bengals were to beat us, it wouldn't surprise me. The Bengals absolutely are a competent team and they have weapons. But anyway, moving on to week four, still at home. This is against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I believe they picked up Aaron Rodgers. Let me pull up the Steelers depth chart here. Let's see. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, yeah, they picked up Aaron Rodgers, oldie moldy, off the couch there. They got him slotted in at QB1. Look, all respect to Aaron Rodgers, guy's a Hall of Fame quarterback, one of the best to ever do it. Uh, but he's certainly on his way out of the league. He bounced around the Jets. He was not great for that team. The Vikings beat him, as a Jet. I don't think we'll have any issue beating him with the Steelers as well. The Steelers do have a very strong defense. That's absolutely true. But again, I don't trust who's driving that car. I do not have faith in Aaron Rodgers to put up this stellar performance. Yes, he has experience, but he's an aging great. He's on his way out. This will probably be his last season, and going on from there. Who knows? But yeah, I think the Vikings will pretty easily beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because again, in my opinion, all that they really have going for them is a defense. And but the Vikings again will have a great defense, and it's going to be at home for the Vikings. And or actually, that game, I wonder if that game. I don't know which ones of these are considered to be um, overseas, because I know that there are a few games that are overseas in London, I believe. But even if that were the case, even if one of these games, even if the Pittsburgh Steelers was played in London, I believe that is still counted as a home game for the Vikings. And even if I still don't have faith in their wide receiver core or their QB, and so I'm going to count this as a win for the Vikings. So I think the Vikings will beat the Steelers. Going on now to the Browns. The Browns could be a trap game because I think they made some changes recently. Let me look at something here. Pulling up their depth chart. Okay, here's the problem. Yeah, here's the problem with the Browns. They got Joe Flacco as QB1. Joe Flacco is kind of adjacent to Aaron Rodgers in the sense that they're both kind of aging greats. Yet I consider Flacco to be a great. I think he's think he's a great QB. Thing is, though, is that Flacco has more gas in the tank than Rodgers. Flacco came off the bench previously for the Browns and led them to the playoffs. So he's got the goods. He absolutely has the goods. In fact, in a world where we, as the Vikings, needed a veteran QB to slot someone in for JJ McCarthy if he were unavailable, I would very happily take Flacco if we wanted a veteran QB to work the Vikings team this year. So yeah, Flacco, and then you got a running back in Jerome Ford for the Browns as well. He's no slouch. He's pretty all right. And their wide receiver core doesn't blow my doors off, but again, you got Joe Flacco throwing that ball to them, so yeah, it could be a tough one here. But yeah, with even with home field advantage, I think the Browns could take this against the Vikings. And again, I really like Flacco, so I'm going to say that the Browns are going to beat the Vikings in Week 5. Okay, so and then week 6, we go into the bye week, rest up, it's fine. The purple rain clouds are brewing. There's a purple storm brewing. It's going to bring purple rain. Even if you enter the bye week on a loss, it's okay. Rest, recuperate, because now bringing the storm, right? Well, not necessarily, because coming out of the bye week, um, we face the Philadelphia Eagles at home, and even with a bye week, that we're going to have extra time against them to rest, recuperate, and to study them. But the Eagles are a darn good team, and they are mean, and they're tough. I mean, yeah, they're like if the Vikings were to beat the Eagles, I would say that's lucky for the Vikings. If the Eagles were to beat the Vikings, I'd say, well, that just makes sense because you got Jalen Hurts, Tush Push King, then you got Saquon Barkley, arguably the best running back in the league right now, certainly top five, and so yeah, even with the Vikings' strong defense, even with it being a home game, I think the Eagles are sadly going to make pretty quick work of the Vikings. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just the tone I'm getting, and so I'm gonna mark this down as a loss for the Vikings. The Eagles will beat the Vikings. Now we're moving on to the Los Angeles Chargers, Week 8. Let me pull up their depth chart. Just a second here. Chargers depth chart. Okay, here's the deal. This is a tough one as well because you got Justin Herbert at QB, and he is a darn good quarterback. He just is. In fact, I think at one point the Vikings were curious about him. I don't blame them because he is a talent and a stud muffin and the whole deal. They do have Najee Harris at running back, though I think he is considered to be out. And then they got Lad McConkey at wide receiver one, and he's all right. He's pretty solid. And again, you got Herbert leading that charge. And it's at Los Angeles. It is at LA. If this were a home game for the Vikings, I think I'd give it to the Vikings. But yeah, with it being at LA, I'm thinking I'm thinking the Chargers will take this one. However, I did realize though that after week 3 we are going to have Jordan Addison back in the wide receiver 2 spot. He's going to come off his suspension. I don't think that'll make a difference against the Browns. They're not really known for their defense, but again, I think Flacco's just going to kind of outscore us. Philadelphia, they have an incredible defense. With the Chargers, Addison could make a difference. He could shift that game. But again, Justin Herbert, he's such a good QB. I'm going to have to give this one to the Chargers. Could be a coin flip. Could. I think that coin is slightly weighted, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, moving on now to the Lions, Week 9. It's at Detroit. Okay, so the Lions, kind of similarly to the Vikings, they came up out of obscurity. For a long time, the laughing stocks in the NFL were the Vikings, the Lions, the Browns. It's pretty much how it was. And there were a few others there as well. This is back, of course, when you had Tom Brady, leading the Patriots every freaking year, and so on and so forth. And now you got the Chiefs doing that. I'm so over the Chiefs. Shout out my grandma who's a Chiefs fan. I love you, grandma, but like I'm kind of over the Chiefs. Um, you got Detroit though. Detroit is you take them seriously now. They got Jared Goff, Jared Goof leading that charge. He's a good QB. They are absolutely a force to be reckoned with, and it's at Detroit. Man, this is tough. Oh, this is tough. I think I'm gonna let me pull up their depth chart. I want to say this is going to be a loss for the Vikings, but I can't confidently say that until I do a little more research. Let's see here. You got Jared Goff, QB. You got I forgot about Jamar Gibbs. Yeah, Detroit has weapons. Detroit has great RB1. Even David Montgomery, RB2, is if he needs to come in, Montgomery's no slouch. Then you got Amon St. Brown, and you got Jamison Williams. And you got Sam Laporta at tight end. Oh gosh, yeah, I think Detroit's gonna beat the Vikings in this one here. Yeah, I as much as I would like that to be flipped, I think Detroit's gonna beat us. Okay, mark that down. Then you got oh, then you got the Ravens. Oh boy, I mean, what is there to say here about the Ravens? I mean, I'll pull up their depth chart just cause, but yeah, the Ravens should make quick work of the Vikings. You got Lamar Jackson at QB, arguably top five, arguably top three. You got Derrick Henry, arguably top five, arguably top three for running backs. You got Zay Flowers. You got Mark Andrews at tight end. He didn't do that good last year. I think he actually got injured. But Mark Andrews is kind of like the Kelsey of their team, to where he's pretty consistently good, and I know Lamar likes him. Um, yeah, and look, the Ravens have a really good defense too, to my memory. So yeah, going throw for throw, stop for stop, run for run. I think the Ravens are gonna make pretty quick work of us here, which is a bummer. Again, I hope I'm wrong when it comes to these losses, but yeah, gonna mark that down as a loss for the Vikings. The Ravens will beat the Vikings. All right, looking ahead to week 11, the Chicago Bears. Now we have the Bears at home. I think the Bears are going to lose this one. I do not think they'll split with the Vikings this year. I think the Vikings are going to beat them twice. And, again, going back to week one, uh, home field advantage is absolutely an X factor. That's worth around 20%. Now we got 20% more going towards us with the Vikings home field advantage, and we'll have Jordan Addison back. And so yeah, I think the Vikings are beat the Chicago Bears in week 11. We're not going to split. We will split, actually, excuse me, because the Bears will beat us in week one. Pardon me. So we're going to split. We lose to the Bears in week one, and then we will beat the Bears in week 11. Looking ahead to oh, this is at Green Bay. Got the Packers versus the Vikings at Green Bay. Now that home field advantage factors it just switched. Let me pull up Packers depth chart. Let's see here. Packers. Got Jordan Love at QB. He's overpaid but solid. Got Josh Jacobs. He's all right. You got Tucker Kraft at tight end. Home field advantage is very real. I don't I don't think Jordan Love is a lock. He's good. Wrong. I don't think he's the second coming that the Packers hope uh, he will be. Home field advantage, though, that is tough stuff. Oh, I think I'm going to give this one to Green Bay. Again, that home field, it's 20%, man. Like, and I think similar to because we play the Packers twice, I think similar to the Bears, we're going to split. So, first time we play the Bears, we lose. Second time we win. First time we play the Packers, I bet second time we'll win. So, yeah, I'm going to give week 12 as a loss to the Vikings. The Packers will beat us in week 12. Looking ahead to Seattle. Seattle's kind of a weird, rickety team as it is. They're not known for anything super great nowadays. I mean, they do have a strong defense, at least historically speaking. That is nowadays. I don't even know who they have at QB. Let's see here. Holy fudge! They have Sam Darnold, the QB. Oh, that's right. That's right. Darnold went to the Seahawks. They gave him 100 mil. Okay. 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 This just got interesting. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's break it down. Look, Darnold Dimes is Darnold Dimes for a reason. Rewind the tape, kids. I talked all about Sammy D and how he did great with the Vikings. Can he repeat that? I don't know. It's unlikely, but it's not like there's an 80% chance he'll blow it. There's like probably a 60% chance, maybe even a 50% chance. Darnold could absolutely run it back and excel with the Seahawks. I do think the Vikings have a better coach than the Seahawks. I think the Vikings have a better defense as well. Though again, you can't completely disregard the Seahawks. And I was kind of leaning towards that up until I saw Darnold at QB. He could either light it up or he could fold under the pressure. But you got to look here. They got Kenneth Walker at running back. He's all right. You got Jackson Smith at wide receiver. They picked up Cooper Kupp too. Oh gosh. Oh, okay. This is tough. It's like Darnold and Cooper Kupp with Walker as well. It's like neither of them are great, but they're they're certainly not bad either. Where is this game at? Oh, it's at Seattle. Oh, let me look at my previous. Let me look at me. Look at me here. So I have them losing. Holy fudge! I have I have the Vikings losing one, two, three, four, five. Okay, they did break it up with that second Bears one. Oh, I was gonna say there's no way the Vikings lose that many in a row. You know, I'm totally just drinking my own Kool-Aid here. I'm drinking the purple Kool-Aid, and I want the purple rain to arrive. I really do. And I really want it to happen on Sam Darnold as well. There would be nothing better. If we could beat the Falcons, who has Kirk Cousins, one former QB of the Vikings, and if we could beat Seattle, who now has our other former QB, that'd be amazing. Oh, my heart wants the Vikings to win this. I don't know if realistically they can, but you know what? I'm an optimist, baby. I'm all in on the purple Kool-Aid. I'm going to take a big swig of it for this one. The purple rain is coming. I'm going to say the Vikings beat the Seahawks. This, God, even as I say that out loud, because it's in late November at Seattle. That climate is tough to play in. Ugh. This is a coin flip game. This is a coin flip, in my opinion. But I'm going to give the edge to the Vikings just because they're my team. But look, if week 13 comes and Seattle beats us, I'll be like, you know what? I get it. I get it. But yeah, I got it. I'm going to give the slight edge to the Vikings just from a fandom perspective. Then you got the Commanders. Commanders. Let me pull up their depth chart. Commanders depth chart. No, dee. You got Jane Daniels, strong QB. Terry McLaurin, wide receiver. They got Debo Samuel too. And Daniels is a good QB. He really is. I hate to say that, but it really is. It is at home though for the Vikings. But I can't fully weight that towards the Vikings. I already did that with Seattle. I'm going to put this as a loss. I think the Vikings are going to lose to Washington. I want to be wrong, but yeah, I'm going to write that down as a loss. Let's see here. Okay, Cowboys. Vikings got the Cowboys. Here's the thing about the Cowboys. That that infrastructure there, it's not that great. It's really not. Let me pull up their depth chart. Look, they got CD Lamb. CD Lamb chop. Again, arguably best wide receiver in the league, easily top three. They got Dak Prescott driving the car, though. Need I say more? They do have George Pickens as well. They do have Javonte Williams, but again, it's like for me, that's kind of a one-trick pony. See what I did there? With with CD Lamb Chop. Um, so yeah, and where is this at? This is at no, this is at Dallas. No, no, no. I'm still gonna give this as a win to the Vikings. I mean, Dallas is Dallas. Like people think that they're America's football team, but it's like, really? It's like I get it for cultural reasons, but like, come on, come on. So I'm gonna give this as a win to my Vikings. I think the Vikings are gonna beat the Cowboys. Um, I got a buddy of mine who's a big fan of the Cowboys, so he'll absolutely say otherwise. But and look, Dak Prescott has impressive stats, but just as a player, I stats are one thing. It's kind of how you run that team, though, from a leadership position. I don't get the sense that Dak Prescott is this uber leader over there. I don't think he's doing a good job with the boy cows out in Dallas. And then you got what's it called? What's that guy called? Micah Parsons. Like he's checked out. Like he's literally falling asleep on the sidelines. Like, I mean, yeah. Like what are we doing over there? So yeah, the Vikings are gonna beat the boy cows in week 15. You got the Giants. One more I need to say. It's the Giants. I'm not impressed. They have not impressed me in any facet. Well, they did revolutionize their defense. I guess I could give them that. But again, do I think the Giants are going to have a better defense than the Vikings? No. I don't even know who they have at QB1 right now. Let me look. Giants depth chart. Just a minute, kids. Oh, they got Russell Wilson. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, New York. No, no way. Look, can he throw a good deep ball? Sure, but no way. Even with home field advantage, I'm giving this to the Vikings easily. I don't Would I consider Russell Wilson to be a weapon? Maybe one out of every 10 throws. And looking beyond him, I don't really see much of anything here. They got Theo Johnson at tight end, but like, what are we talking about? What are we talking? They do have Malik Neighbors though, wide receiver. But again, a lot of it goes down to who's driving the car. I don't I don't trust Russell Wilson to drive that car. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, let's move on now to week 17 against Detroit. Um, hmm, it's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think especially against these division rivals, I think we're going to split. I think the Bears are going to split. I think the Packers are going to split, and I think Detroit's going to split as well. So that would mean the Vikings would beat Detroit then versus Detroit. Yeah, we do have home field advantage, and it's the Christmas Day game. The Vikings will not let me down on Christmas Day. They'll absolutely give me that gift on Christmas Day. Yeah, I'm going to give this one to the Vikings. I think so. I feel pretty confident in. And then looking ahead now to the Packers last week of the season, week 18. Um, this is at home. Yeah. I'm going to give it to the Vikings. I'm going to give it to the Vikings. The Vikings are going to beat the Packers. So the Vikings are going to. Here's the thing. Looking back on this now, they're going to win their last four games. They're going to beat the Boy Cows, the Giants, the Lions, the Packers. We're going to go out on a four-win streak here. Again, especially because it's a division rival. It's at home. Green Bay, good, not great, in my opinion. Um, Really, in my opinion, the division is really a two-horse race between the Vikings and the Lions. I don't think the Bears are going to do anything worth anything. Green Bay could absolutely be a dark horse, but I think if the Lions were to fall, I think the Vikings are easily number one to take that position. I don't see any other team. I don't see the Green Bay Packers or the Chicago Bears overtaking us for that. And look, if depending on how the Packers season goes, it could be demoralized. Look, the same could be said for the Vikings too, but I think
Well, again, if my predictions are correct, we're going to have momentum. Beating the Boy Cows, beating the Giants, beating the Lions, and then we're going to roll into the Packers. And so, again, I'm going to have the Vikings splitting at the Bears, or splitting with the Bears, splitting the Lions, splitting the Packers, which I think makes sense. And so, looking back then across 18 weeks, 17 games, because you got to take out that bye, see how this breaks down. So, you got loss, win, loss, win, 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 loss, 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 loss. Yep, 5 losses in a row. That's tough. Win, loss, win, loss, win, 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 win. So total then, I have the Vikings finishing up the 2025 season with a final record of 9-8. On its surface, that seems low. I don't like that. That's very average. I don't like that one bit. However, JJ's untested, and there's a lot of teams that got a lot of experience. And again, that home field advantage it's an X factor. There's no doubt about it. And we're losing Jordan and Addison those first 3 weeks really as well. Um, yeah, 9-8. I don't like having that written down, but after breaking it down and doing my math and doing my analysis the way that I have, I get it. It makes sense. Um, 9-8. Look, obviously, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that the team, you know, wins 12 games, wins 13 games. But I, I could also see a world too where we lose more too. I could see us having a negative record. I could see. I'm not saying we won't be a dumpster fire team, but I could see a world where we get 8 wins, 7. You know, nothing below 7, nothing below 7. But yeah, this is not a gimme. This season, this is not a soft season. And I don't mean to sound like a hater, because again, remember, kids, I gave the edge on the Seahawks for the Vikings. You know, um, but I don't want to just seem like I'm just high on my own supply here. I'm not saying we're gonna have a flawless run here. Oh, but this is a little more tough than I thought it'd be. But look, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, whoever you're pulling for, I hope your team does well, unless you're a Denver Broncos fan. I loathe the Broncos. Okay, let's end on this. Everyone has a favorite team. For me, it's the Vikings. Everyone also has a team that they respect, that they appreciate. They're not really a fan, but they admire their tenacity. For me, it's the Lions and the Browns because I love underdogs. Now the Lions are less so an underdog. The Browns are due. I even put the Panthers in there because they're keeping Adam Thielen warm for us for a while. Hopefully he comes back. And the Panthers are due. They deserve to have some luck go their way. So I respect a couple other teams in the league as well. I also hate some other teams as well. The Chiefs, I went cold on. Again, sorry, Grandma, but it's just the truth. I went cold on them because they became the new Patriots. Um, the Eagles are historically mean, like an aggressive team, even in their fans as well. I'm not trying to paint Philadelphia all under one brushstroke, but you know, they go nuts. But I loathe the Broncos. Lo- I can't stand the Broncos. I'll tell you why. Uh, the first the first crime they committed against me was getting rid of Tim Tebow. He was the first. Well, first there was Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson was the first player I recognized as a football player. He was kind of my first taste of football. Then you had people like Percy Harvin, Brett Favre. Again, people names I knew but didn't really latch onto. Tim Tebow was the first NFL star I think I ever really latched onto because he became kind of a schoolyard name. He was said throughout the halls. All the kids were doing the Tebow back in the day, and he's a man of faith. The Broncos went, see you later. God bless him. He's doing great work. He's a football player, baseball player, and I don't know, a pastor, motivational speaker. He's doing great things. So God bless Tebow. But I think the Broncos ejected on him too early. Just looking back at their team history. The second thing the Broncos did to me was, I think it was, might have been the 2023 season. Yeah, it wasn't against Darnold. Who was at QB? Was it Joshua Dobbs? I think it was. It might have been the past or not. There was a game though where the Broncos beat the Vikings by 1 point pretty recently. It was either 2023 or 2022. I bet it was 23 though. Yeah, that's right, because Kirk Cousins wasn't hurt. I'm pretty sure it was 2023. Let me see if I can figure that out. But the Broncos beat the Vikings by 1 point. Let's see. What's the deal with airplane food, kids? Who are you? Who do you think are going to go to the Super Bowl? Who do you think are going to go to the Super Bowl? Um, I can see, obviously, I want the Vikings to go to the Super Bowl. Um, but I do see a world where the Bengals could go. I hate that. I don't want that to be the case. Because again, that guy in my fantasy league is all on the Bengals. So if if the Vikings were to beat the Bengals, I'd have that on him. If they were to go to the Super Bowl, he'd have that on me. I can't have that. Yeah, the Broncos beat the Vikings by 1 point in 2023. Russell Wilson was still behind the wheel in Denver. He was still driving the car, and it was Joshua Dobbs. Oh, I remember now. I was at a Buffalo Wild Wings with a friend of mine. Yeah, that was a sad drive home. Ah, I I loathe the Broncos. Oh, so look, if you're an Eagles fan, you're a Patriots fan, God bless you, go have fun. I respect that. But if you're a Broncos fan, oh, I I can't. I can't. You got a beautiful state though, uh, Denver, Colorado. I really like Denver. I like Colorado. But as a football organization, no, no. Broncos country, let's ride. More like Broncos country, let's hide. So, yeah. But that'll do it for the Far Out podcast today. Thank you so much for listening, and yeah, go Vikings, baby, because um, purple rain is coming. The storm clouds are brewing. So there's going to be a thunderstorm here. It's going to bring all that purple rain. And we're going to see skull chants across the nation. And I believe that J.J. McCarthy will lead the Vikings to their first ever Super Bowl win. And then we're going to have not just a purple rain, we're going to have a purple flood. But it's going to start with J.J. McCarthy. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. But again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll see you in the next one. All right. Bye bye.